Okay, today we're going to tie a pheasant tail. We're going to do a flashback with a bead head here. This is for the beginner fly tying box. So I've got a Nymph hook. This is a size 14 and a 2.8 brass bead on the front. So in the box I sent you enough materials to tie different variations: bead, non-bead, flash, regular. But to start this, I'm going to just take a second and just build up a little thread behind that bead there, just a little dam. And this is going to help me later on when I do the legs on this fly. You can add a little ball of dubbing or something to speed this up, but just a little thread base like that, and then I can take my thread back here to the midpoint. And the first thing we're going to do is just tie in some copper wire here. So I've got a nice strand, a few inches long, and I'm going to just lay this along the side of the hook, the near side of the hook, and just hold it along the hook shank there and take it all the way back to our tie-in point, which would be directly above the barb of the hook right there. This is where we're going to add our pheasant tail. So I'm going to take these nice, beautiful, long pheasant tail fibers and try to snip off. You can try to even up those tips if you need to, but I want that tail to be about half the length of the hook shank. So once I have that measurement right there, I can switch it to my left hand, and I'm just going to lay it right there on an angle and let that roll right up on top with 2 or 3 good turns. I'm not going to snip this off. I'm going to advance my thread just to past halfway, and now I'm going to use that butt section there to build the abdomen of the fly. So I'm going to wrap these over the top away from me. It can be a little tricky with these, keeping a hold of these little pheasant fibers, so if you have some hackle pliers, that may help. But I want to go just barely past halfway, and then I can hold those up and drop my thread over with my left hand about 3 times there, and now I can snip off this excess right there. So I'm trying to keep track of my proportions here. I want basically the back half of the fly to be the abdomen and the front half to be the thorax. So I don't want to get creeping up here too far. So I want to keep this midpoint in mind here as I work. Now I'm going to take this copper wire and I'm going to go over the top towards me. And that'll create that little segmented look. Also, it'll help tie down those pheasant fibers, which can be a little brittle. And once I get there to that halfway, I make one good turn right there, and now I can just drop my thread over again as I hold on to it about 3 times right there. We can come in there and snip that off, or sometimes you can take your and just helicopter that baby off. It's tight. Get that little burr end down. Okay, so there's the abdomen. Let's come back to that halfway point about right there. And this is where we're going to tie in our flashback. So I've got a little flash material there. I'm going to hold that right on top of the hook. And so that lays nice and flat for the wing case right there. All right, we'll tie that down and then bring our thread right back to that halfway point. And now we're going to add more pheasant. So I'm going to get a nice another little clump there, about the same as I used for the tail. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this for the wing case and the legs. So I want to measure this. So this length that I want is about the length of the hook shank. So something about like that. I'm going to switch that to my left hand. And then I can hold that right in there like that. And tie those butts down. And again, tie that down right at that halfway point. About right there. And now I can add peacock to the thorax. So I'll take one strand of peacock, like so. And now I'll take my thread right behind that bead. All right, now I'm going to just wrap this peacock over the top away from me and just fill in that thorax area. And that peacock really makes it look buggy, catches fish. So we'll hold that up right there and tie that off. And now we're ready for the wing case. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this little clump of pheasant that I had left behind here. And I'm going to just hold that real tight, pull it real tight along the top and just pinch it there at the eye of the hook. And then I can come down with a couple of good wraps, like that. Now you can snip these butts off if you'd like and, you know, attach legs as you know, on your own right there. Or I'm going to use these butts, these tips for the legs. So I'm just going to take this clump and just try to separate those evenly on both sides and just push them to the sides. And now I can come in here and just brush those down and then make a few more wraps right there back towards my left, and that will push those legs and create just that little the legs right there, like that. Again, that step's optional, but pretty easy there if you measure it just right. If it's difficult to get them just right, if you need to, if they're a little long, you can snip them off. I don't really love to do that because it gives it kind of a butch haircut, but let's pull this flash over the top. Again, lay that nice and flat right there and let that, we're going to capture that. A couple of good tight wraps. And now I can snip off that flash. Okay, now we'll just clean up that head. Put a little tag right there, and then we can add some head cement. And we've got a really deadly nymph pattern that's proven and really fishes well. This one I'm just going to add a little UV along the top there,